In this leadership module, we're going to be talking about creating buy-in. Or, said another way, how do you create emotional commitment from your team or organization to reach a goal? Let's get started.
A recent study found that less than 33% of organizations are successful in getting their employees to buy into their strategic plans. That's amazing. That's an amazing statistic, because change is a really tricky thing. It involves humans who have free will. And so to enable your own success, it's important for you to create buy-in or honest emotional support for any changes that you are anticipating leading. Often when we work really hard on something, we delude ourselves into believing that people will support a change without making a deliberate effort to actually get them on board. And then this usually backfires because people don't seem to be doing what it is that you've asked of them, because you haven't taken the time to get them to buy in and to get them to support it emotionally. So the first thing to really be honest with yourself about is scheduling time and the energy that it's going to need and it's going to take to get people to buy into the change that you want to make and get them on board. Next, while you're trying to create this emotional support, you need to do your homework about who's going to participate and what's going to be, what's going to involve in this change. So ask yourself some pretty simple questions like, what is the most likely objection that people will have to the change that you're suggesting? Or how can you address these anticipated objections in your initial communication? So when you first talk to people about the change, how can you already start to assuage their fears and answer the questions that you think will be coming up? And then ask yourself, how have other ideas that are similar to the one that you're putting forward, how have they failed in the past? What's the analysis about why change hasn't happened in the past? And really give that some thought. If you go through some of these questions, it does two things. First, it helps you to create a plan to address the objections, so you go into the conversation prepared. And then it's also going to create confidence for you that what you're proposing has value and is really high quality for the team or the organization or the project that you're leading. The next step is that you want to identify the key stakeholders that you need to actually buy into your idea. So after you've done your homework, create a list of people who will need to support or drive the change that you are suggesting for your organization or project. Then make a list of the people who are going to actually be affected by the change. And you need to begin communicating with both of these lists of people, because one of them is going to actually be creating the change and the other group is actually going to be affected by the change. You need to respect what you're going to hear from them, because as with all things, when you put a new idea out in the world, you're going to receive feedback from your stakeholder communities, and you need to be able to hear that, incorporate it, and potentially make changes or adjustments to the strategy that you have so that everybody can get on board and accept what the future might look out. And you should look out for people who are going to especially hate your idea. And these are the naysayers. These are the people who sit in the back of the room and just sort of throw spitballs at you and aren't really interested in participating, and bring them into the conversation. This really works because it helps you understand what objections they're going to have. And then again, you can sort of be prepared and positively address them. And then second, you can legitimize their opinion and say, hey, we want to listen to you, but rather than just saying, this isn't going to work, let's figure out a solution to whatever issues you have, and then let's make it work. As we all know, whatever we support, or we tend to support the things that we help to create. So if you include everybody in the creation process, they're going to get behind it because it's something that they own and it's something they're proud of. As a last step, create an elevator speech. You need to be compelling. You need to have a compelling elevator speech, a very quick snippet that you can use to describe the change that you're going to be suggesting to the company. And this elevator speech should first clearly articulate the problem you're solving and explain the WIIFM, quote unquote, or what's in it for me to the person that you're speaking to. So I'm going to solve this problem, and this is going to be important for you because, etc., etc. For everyone in this world, change is scarier than staying the same. We all know that. It's even if we're in pain, if we're comfortable and we know that pain and we know how to deal with it in our daily life, then it's so much more comfortable to stay where we're at than move away from it. So it really pays for you to speak honestly and clearly about why you believe that going through the discomfort of change is going to pay off for them. And you should try to paint it in an unthreatening way. This isn't going to, don't use the words hard or difficult or we're going to manage this, but paint it in a light that makes it sound positive, and paint it in a way that people can believe that the change is going to benefit them. Finally, just with this elevator speech, make sure you communicate it often and to everyone that you have identified in your stakeholder groups, and essentially anyone that you meet. As we've discussed before, a pretty simple rule is it's impossible to over-communicate when you're talking about change. And a good rule of thumb is to continue to do it until you're sick of it. If you're starting to feel like you're sick of telling people about the change and why it's positive, then you maybe are starting to get through to people.
We hope that this section on creating buy-in has been useful for you. Remember that the entire transcript of this video is located below, as well as a downloadable takeaway that you can use offline. If you would, please also take the time to comment below and tell us how you're creating buy-in in your team or your organization today. And, if you'd like, tell us how we can make this better. Thanks.